Is going on, everybody, and welcome to the Saturday edition of the Stokastic NHL Strategy Show. I am your host, Josh Harris. We had hockey last night. We were off. Back, same size slate. Didn't realize the main slate was only 5 games here today. We were talking with Jake earlier. It's like they could have done like a 9-game main slate starting at 4 p.m. Eastern. Or a 7-gamer and left off the late games, but DraftKings is DraftKings, and they never
I was thinking, I gotta wonder how much the Final Four tournament is playing into the decisions of the games today. Just because, like, when I look at the late slate, you have Canadian teams in 3 of the 5 games. And the 2 that you don't, one of them is Detroit-Boston, which is like, it's an original 6 matchup playoff implications, like all that. Like, it's a pretty big game. And then it's St. Louis-Vancouver, I guess 4 out of 5. St. Louis is a pretty good hockey market for drawing TV viewership regardless. So I wonder if it was like only put a handful of games on late at night or for the night slate and like as many of the bigger markets as we can possibly fit because they know they're not going to attract very much viewership in the States today.
That might be giving the NHL too much credit.
That's the very next thing that popped in my head. Might be giving them too much credit, but I mean, it would make sense if that was the thought process, I think.
Yeah. Maybe they peaked at the schedule. Who knows? I mean, honestly, like, there are some big games from a playoff implication. There's a good late night matchup. You know what I mean? The Leafs are on the slate. It's the best slate of the year. So, I mean, like, it's really not awful. I mean, 5 games is better than 14, as we say. So, yeah. Before we get into it, though, MLB subscriptions are live. You can use the promo code PUCKLUCK. That'll get you 15% off any of the MLB subscriptions at stokastic.com/pricing. So there's weekly, there's monthly, and there's annual. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm not 100% sure if you can use it on annual, but you can try if you're interested. If you do the annual, it comes out to about 20% cheaper than the monthly. You get billed once annually, obviously, but it comes out monthly to about 20% cheaper. You throw the promo code on top of that, you're smurfing. Obviously, there's a core or max. It's very similar. I mean, MLB is pretty similar to NHL from a stacking standpoint. Instead of tilting goalies, you'll tilt your second starting pitcher. But I am excited for MLB season. I haven't paid too much attention to it because we've been busy with hockey. But, yeah, promo code PUCKLUCK, stokastic.com/pricing, get you 15% off any subscription. Let's get into this slate. Let's start it off with Cliffy's Habs because we care about our content creators here. The New York Islanders with a 2.9 total heading into Montreal. The Canadiens have a 3.1. Isles going Horvat, Barzal, Lee, Shen, Heineman, Duclair, JG Pajot, Palat, Holmstrom. I don't know why I said that. Suzuki, Caulfield, Slavkovsky, Evans, Texier, Bolduc. So with these new Islander lines, the only one that really stands out to me is Horvat, Barzal, Lee, 17,900, 17.9% top 2, 15.3% projected ownership. You have positive leverage there. It's a bit of a tough matchup going into the Suzuki line, but it is a good power play matchup. Cliffy on Thursday mentioned how the Islanders' power play has gotten better with Braden Shen. It has. Matthew Schaefer still an absolute unicorn. It is Jacob Fowler in net, I believe. Listen, this is we've talked about it a bunch. As long as Horvat and Barzal together, they're going to put up good numbers. They carried Andre Palat to good numbers. Anders Lee is kind of like, I don't want to disrespect Lee here, but I was going to say Walmart Mark Stone, but that's so disrespectful because like they're a similar type player.
He reminds me of Patrick Hornqvist in a way, the way he used to play.
Yeah. He's going to fit in great on that line. Horvat and Barzal have excellent offensive numbers together whenever they're together. So I am interested in that line. I guess like if you wanted to get it a little bit cheaper, a little less ownership, a little bit more power play, you can leave off Lee and add in Braden Shen, go double center. It would make it 17K even, but I'd be inclined to leave the Islanders top line. Outside of a Braden Shen add-in or one-off, I don't really have too much interest in the Isles depth. The Montreal side is also interesting, but their price also isn't ideal. 20,800, 24.1% top two, 14.7% projected ownership. Now, again, it's not an ideal 5-on-5 matchup for either of these top lines. Like Horvat and Barzal have pretty good defensive numbers together. They were a little bit worse with Palat. They were better with Heineman. I would imagine they'll be fine with Lee. 20,800 is a lot of cheddar. It's a good power play matchup, but the Islanders don't take a ton of penalties. And in that range, right above them is Edmonton. Now it's not a great matchup. And Tampa Bay, arguably a better matchup than Edmonton. They're playing each other. And then below them, there's a gaggle of lines, 17 and 18K. Interestingly enough, this Montreal line has the highest top two of any line on the slate. So, I do worry a little bit about minutes, but, Suzuki will play over 20. Caulfield and Slafkovsky may play 18, 19. It's an important game. Like this game has heavy implications. So those minutes may get bumped. Like if it's a close game in the third, like you could just see like Suzuki, Caulfield, Slafkovsky just play more. So like that's why I'm kind of inclined to play them. Just because if this was like a random game in February and whatever, this like I think they have the same points and they're battling for the third spot. So, yeah, I do like Montreal 1 here. There are a bunch of cheap playable lines here tonight, so it's not super price prohibitive. I like both top lines here. If you do need a filler, if you are like power play stacking Edmonton, it's not ideal without Draisaitl, or power play stacking Tampa or something like that. 2-man of Evans, Bolduc, or Bolduc, Texier. I think that's definitely in play. That line has been excellent in a small sample. So Montreal 2 is a filler, but it's both top lines here.
I'll start on the Montreal side. I think it's important to talk about the minutes because it's something that has fluctuated through the season. Now, both Kirby Dach and Josh Anderson out for this game for Montreal. The last two games for the Habs, Alex Newhook has played under 10 minutes in both of them. I think Oliver Kapanen played 9 minutes in the last one. Like, Caulfield and Slafkovsky averaged 19 to 20 minutes in those two games. Suzuki almost 23. I think, if this lineup is healthy, maybe the wingers play like 17, maybe up to 19, depending on power play time, and Suzuki 2021. With the injuries that they have and the fact that they don't seem to be relying much on Newhook and Kapanen and obviously like Joe Veleno, Brendan Gallagher, like these are not guys that are going to play 14 or 15 or 16 minutes or whatever. I do think this top line is going to get a lot of minutes. Now, if they don't, it's for one of two reasons. One, it's a blowout. And if it's a blowout for the Habs, then the top line's probably figuring in. The other is Martin St. Louis trying to get fired. And I don't think he's trying to do that. So I do think the Montreal top line is going to see a lot of minutes. Lee and Barzal have played a lot of time together this year, and I'll get to their offense in a second. But defensively, they're at 2.9 expected goals against per 60. that's with a bunch of different wingers. I imagine things will be better with Bo Horvat, but even with Horvat, if they're like league average, that's not really a matchup I'm super concerned about from the Montreal perspective. But that's only at 5-on-5. The Islanders, you mentioned they don't take penalties. 6th fewest time shorthanded per game over the last 25 games. 6th fewest time shorthanded per game since Thanksgiving. So, like, this is not a team that takes very many penalties. The Habs might only get 2, maybe 3 power play opportunities. On top of that, like, the Islanders' penalty kills generally been pretty good. Again, over their last 25 games, 2nd lowest goals against per minute in the league. Only Pittsburgh has been better. So they don't take a lot of penalties. The penalty kill has been great for 2.5 months now. I don't know. I don't, and then you have Ilya Sorokin after that, even if it is a good 5-on-5 matchup. So, like, for an extra $900, I can go play Tampa Bay against Edmonton goaltending. I don't know. I don't mind Montreal 1. I think for me, it's more of like, in a 20 max, maybe I have a couple. Certainly, if you're playing a whole slew of lineups, you'll have more. But for me, it's that Evans, Bolduc, Texier line. Like I said, they're not playing Newhook and Kapanen. Kapanen will get some PK time. He might get like 8 minutes of 5-on-5 time, like, honestly. And that fourth line's not going to get a ton of 5-on-5 time either. This Evans, Bolduc, Texier line is basically the second line now. And, you mentioned they're good numbers in a small sample. Bolduc and Texier also had good numbers with Doc in a small sample. So that's 2 different centers in small samples where the wingers perform pretty well together. I'm inclined to believe like they can get something done. And if you look at the middle 6 for the Islanders, like, I was looking at JG Pajot's numbers without Anders Lee on his line. 68 shot attempts against per 60, 4.2 expected goals against per 60 minutes. The actual goals against is a little worse than league average, but that's because they have Ilya Sorokin putting up nearly a .930 save percentage behind them. That's the problem, is like it's not beating Sorokin, or it's not beating the forward matchup. It's beating Sorokin. Like, that's the issue. But that Montreal depth line, I think if you're playing Tampa Bay, is where I would go. You want to one-off Demidov or something like that in case they get lucky on the power play, okay. But for me, it is that Montreal third line, Texier, Bolduc, and Evans, using them in your Tampa stacks. On the Islanders side, I mean, whatever defensive issues Liam Barzal might have offensively, they're at 3.7 expected goals for per 60 together this season, 3.9 actual, I believe. Like, they've been great at 5-on-5. I imagine Bo Horvat, that's not going to get a whole lot worse. It is a tough 5-on-5 matchup against that Montreal top line, which has been good defensively. But it is a very good power play matchup. And with Braden Shen, since they got Braden Shen, like, we mentioned he's done some good work on the power play in St. Louis, prior to this season anyway. 9.9 expected goals, 12.5 actual goals per 60. Montreal does take a lot of penalties. I think Matthew Schaefer had 2 power play goals the last time these two teams met. They played the very first game coming out of the Olympic break. Somebody roughed up Schaefer. Schaefer came out pissed off and scored 2 goals on the same power play, like a minute apart. So, like, maybe you want to get Schaefer in, but yeah, that top line, I mean, they're coming in with a ton of ownership. There are some lines in that price range you might want to play. We'll get to St. Louis a little bit later. St. Louis is in a very good matchup. I do think it's Islanders 1. Islanders 1 is the only stack that I'm considering from the Islanders side. If you want a one-off like Heineman or Duclair or something like that, like, okay. But if I'm stacking anything from the Islanders, it's the top line. But on the Montreal side, it's that cheap third line that I would mix in with Tampa Bay.
I'm so annoyed that Schaefer's in Long Island because he has it. And he has the personality, and
it's one of those things. Like, if the Islanders don't pull out like a generationally lucky lottery that year, this franchise is sunk. And now they get maybe the best defenseman to enter the NHL since Nick Lidstrom.
Yeah,
it's fucking crazy.
And they also got James Higgins, right? They had a draft last year.
Was it Higgins with Boston?
Oh yeah, Boston. I forgot.
Cole Yzerman.
Yeah, they had a good draft. I hate that for us. Toronto. Speaking of shit, Toronto Maple Leafs with a 2.4 total. I don't know how that transitioned. Heading into Ottawa, The Senators have a 3.6. Toronto going Domi, Nyes, Nylander, Tavares, Cowan, Robertson, Matthias Michelli, Bo Grew, Dakota Joshua.
Should mention they did change up the lines final 10 minutes last night trying to win. So it's just something to pay attention to.
Yeah, trying to win, something they don't do often. Sens going Stützle, Batherson, Giroux, Cousins, Kachuk, Grieg, Pinto, Amadio, Cousins. Like, if they run back the lines from yesterday, Cowan and Tavares have a large sample together of being very underwhelming. If they run Nylander Nyes together, they have a large sample of being very underwhelming. And a lot of those minutes came with Matthews, and now they have Maximus Domi in between them. The only reason he's in the NHL is because of his last name right now, I think. Their best player is on the third line with Dakota Joshua. And
I mean, listen, I like Michelli. Best player might be pushing it a little bit.
No. We are going with their best player of late, Matthias fucking Michelli. Okay. No, I mean, like, obviously, like, if you ask Leafs fans, Matthew Nyes is like the next coming of Wayne Gretzky, but like obviously like Nylander and those guys. But Matthias Michelli has been excellent of late, but he's sandwiched on the third line with Despicable Me and Dakota Joshua. So it's just like and this is the worst 5-on-5 matchup in the NHL. So hasta la vista, baby. I'd probably just do some one-offs if you're like, all right, I have to get a Leaf in my lineup. It would be like a one-off Easton Cowan, a one-off Matthias Michelli, something like that. But I'm out on the Leafs in single entry. It's what to do on the Ottawa side. It's always what to do on the Ottawa side. They always let us down, those little shits. And Cousins, Kachuk, Grieg coming in 18,300, 16.5% projected top two, 14.3% projected ownership. It's a lot of ownership for not a lot of minutes and a pretty hefty price. Now, I will say, like, there's absolutely no matchup concerns. And Anthony Stolarz is in net. For some reason, Craig Berube just hates Joseph Woll. Like, the quotes he says about Joseph Woll to the media, just absolutely just torching the kid. Hate it. But, like, Anthony Stolarz has been rough this season. Yeah, it would be Cousins, Kachuk, Grieg. If you want to leave off Grieg and add in, Batherson, it gets really pricey, and that'd be like 21,700. At that point, I'll just go play Tampa. So I don't mind leaving Ridley Grieg there. Ridley Grieg, famous for doing that slap shot into the empty net against the Leafs, so it could get a little bit testy. But I'd probably just leave him there. If you do want to go for a filler, I think Pinto, Amadio, Cousins definitely in play. They've been great. The Tavares, Cowan, Robertson line is just not great. So it would be Ottawa too for me. I think Ottawa one's fine, but for the extra 200, I'd rather get Brady Tkachuk in, and the Pinto line's fine as a filler.
Yeah, obviously we have to see what the lines look like for Toronto. I mean, Matthias Michelli on the third line with this lineup is just
it's a war crime. It's
incredible. It's absolutely incredible. I got to think they're going to change something. But, you mentioned the underwhelmingness of Cowan and Tavares. They had about 100 minutes together without any of the big boys on the line with them. 62 shot attempts, 2.6 expected goals for per 60. Like, that's not really 62 shot attempts is fine. Like, that's pretty good shot generation, but it's not a lot of quality, right? And if you're throwing a bunch of low quality at Linus Ullmark, considering how much Ottawa suppresses quality anyway, like, that feels like a pretty bad matchup. What I will say is when I ran Sims,
oh no.
Oh yeah. It gave me 4 Leafs with positive leverage. One is a defenseman. We'll talk about him at the end. The other three were the three guys from that second line, Robertson, Tavares, and Cowan, between roughly like 1% and 2.5% positive exposure. It's just, I think, one, it's ice time. Like, there's just nobody else to play that can play the minutes.
I mean,
the
they
other
can
is
play Michelli.
That's true. They should. They won't. And the other is like they're just so cheap, right? 11,800 if that's the trio. Like, that's a stack that you can put with Edmonton, Tampa, Montreal, whatever. So just given those minutes, I think they're fine. But like, I don't know, man. This is not a team that I'm necessarily like. To me, it screams MME. 2.4 total on the road in a brutal 5-on-5 matchup with the team playing the way that it has been for months now. For me, it's MME. It's definitely not the top line. I was looking at Domi and Nyes. I got to slander them. I was looking at Domi and Nyes, their minutes without Austin Matthews. Over 100 minutes together this season of 5-on-5. 41 shot attempts for, 76 against per 60. The expected goals, 1.3 for, 3.4 against. This is the top line. So, no. If anything for Toronto, it's the second line. Two-man Tavares and Cowan. Or if you need some cheap guys, Cowan and Robertson, maybe you'll get lucky. But I'm out. On the Ottawa side, like, it is a bit of a problem, the minutes, right? Because they did – I do think they played decent minutes the other night. Brady Tkachuk played 17 minutes the other night, 18 and a half before that, 16 and a half, 18, 16 and a half. It's like 16 to 18 minutes. Like,
it's almost 9K.
Yeah, exactly. 16 to 18 minutes just really isn't a lot considering he's only $900 less than Nikita Kucherov. So, like, again, when I ran Sims for this slate, it didn't give me any of the top Ottawa guys for positive leverage. Like, he gave me Thomas Chabot, obviously, and we'll talk about him later. And Shane Pinto was the highest positively leveraged forward. And I actually don't mind that Ottawa third line here tonight. One, those guys do get minutes, right? Like, especially at home where they're always used in the shutdown matchup. I mean, I think technically they actually get more ice time on the road, but I mean, that's neither here nor there. But they are going to be used in that shutdown matchup, right? And like at the low end, like Nick Cousins will be like 13, 14 minutes. And then Amadio maybe a minute or two more, and then Pinto a minute or two more than that. And, they're going to be going out against, I assume, that Nyes Domi line.
It doesn't matter.
That is, you're right, it doesn't. But like if they are going out against that line, 10,400 for that Ottawa third line. I think that's another spot I would go if you're playing Tampa Bay or Edmonton or something like that. Otherwise, like, I guess it's Ottawa too. Like, I agree with you, but I think if I'm playing the expensive guys, like I'm one-offing Tim Stützle or I'm one-offing Brady Tkachuk. I'm not stacking them. It is just way too expensive considering the matchup. And their power play's been worse without Sanderson. Like, that's a problem. Fewer expected goals, far fewer actual goals. Like, samples aren't big. The Leafs can cure any offense. But I don't know, maybe some one-offs of the big guys, but for me, this game's about Ottawa 3 and using them with your Tampa Bay or your Edmonton or whatever.
Yeah, they should probably put Jordan Spence running the power play, but, I'm not a coach. Also, the Leafs haven't been the same since they traded Pierre Engvall at the deadline 2 years ago. For everyone just joining us, MLB subscriptions are live. If you do want to head over to stokastic.com/pricing, you can use promo code PUCKLUCK. That will get you 15% off any MLB subscription. There are annual. I think it's like 19% off. Comes out to like 19% off the monthly. So head over to stokastic.com/pricing. Use that promo code and check it out. What do we got next? Oh, baby. St. Louis Blues with a 3 total heading into Vancouver. The Canucks, 2.6. What a game. Blues going Thomas, Holloway, Snuggerud, Buchnevich, Neighbors, Kyrou, Dvorsky, Drouin, Stenberg. The only reason I mentioned that line is because they're 8,200 against the Canucks. They've actually been pretty good in their 2 games together, but I can string together 2 good games with Haas. Canucks are going Rossi, Besser, Ogren, Pettersson, DeBrusk, O'Connor, and the fighting Teddy Blugers. On the Blues side, I think this is one reason why I'm a little bit lower on Ottawa too. This top line is fully correlated, 18,500, 17.7% top 2, 11.8% projected ownership. They have positive leverage going into the Canucks matchup. The one thing I will say is, honestly, the fighting Blugers have been very good defensively. The problem is their penalty kill sucks, and the goaltending behind them sucks even worse. So, if I was going to play a line in that 18K range, and there's 3 of them, it's this Blues line and it's both Ottawa lines. I think I prefer this Blues line, which is an insane thought if you think about how bad they were in October. But this Blues line has been very, very good. Not creating a ton of expected goals, but scoring, and their shot rate is good, and they're controlling the play. If you can control the play against Vancouver, you're going to get chances. The best line for the Blues, or for the Canucks at shot share, is the fighting Blugers, and they're underwater. So that's all you need to know about the Canucks. I think the second line of Buchnevich, Neighbors, Kyrou also in play. They've been good in a 138-minute sample. The Pettersson line, fine offensively, pretty rough defensively. So I think, if you want to use that St. Louis second line, they're a little bit priced above a filler at 13.8. You probably can't fit them in with Tampa, but you can get them in with, Ottawa or maybe even Montreal if you get a little bit feisty on your blue line. They're coming in right at their top 2. I don't mind them. The third line, I don't think you need a full stack, but if you need a super cheap one-off, you probably could do worse than Dvorsky. I don't want to that's famous last words, but it is the Canucks. On the Canucks side, this Pettersson line has lots of negative leverage, 4.8% top 2, 11.8% projected ownership. As funny as that is, they're $100 cheaper than the Tavares line, and I'd much rather play the Pettersson line. As sickening as that is, I don't love it. In single entry, I'm not playing the Canucks. It's just not going to happen. I'm certainly not playing the Rossi, Besser, Ogren line. I know Besser has been on a little bit of a heater, but they're coming in more than 2x their top 2 as well. If I had to play a line on the Canucks, it would be Pettersson, DeBrusk, O'Connor, but that's definitely MME only. Muted. You are muted, mate.
Classic Cliffy. You're right about that Bluger line. 46 shot attempts against, 2.3 expected goals against per 60. That's actually pretty good defensive numbers, especially considering how bad this entire team is, or the rest of the team anyway. But the Vancouver penalty kill certainly struggling for a while. Basically all season. The Canucks don't take a boatload of penalties is one thing. So that's something that probably could save their goals against here tonight. But it's not as if we ever really stacked St. Louis for the power play. The Canucks had the second fewest time shorthanded over the last 25 games. But it's not like we ever stacked the Blues for the power play. And that Blues top line, 64 shot attempts, 2.9 expected goals, 6.5 actual. Obviously, 6.5 actual is way too high. They're shooting 22%. But even if you cut that in half, they're at 3.2, 3.3 goals per 60, which is pretty good. And they're getting good minutes, right? 18 to 20 minutes across the board over their last, 6 games, since the All-Star break, since the trade deadline. Snuggerud and Holloway have obviously looked great. Holloway came back. His first game since returning after injury was after the Olympics. He had 3 goals and 1 assist in that game. In the 10 games since, he has 10 more points. The guy's been on fire for the last 4 weeks. So I really do. I do like that top line. It is a tough 5-on-5 matchup, but like, there's not a lot in that price range I really want to play. Like you mentioned, there's those two Ottawa lines just over 18K. Between 17 and 18K, you have a Detroit top line with JT Compher pushing 20% ownership, which is just one of those, like, I'd just rather unregister. And then you have the Islanders top line, which I think is playable. So for me, it's basically between St. Louis one and Islanders one. And it's, would I rather play the Islanders going into the Suzuki line, or would I rather play this Blues top line going into Teddy Bluger? So like, I really like, if you're, I think of the lines that are right around like that 17 to 19K range, St. Louis one is at the top for me. And in fact, you know, they have a 17.7% top two stack. I'm pretty fine with playing St. Louis one here. And by the way, Dylan Holloway was one of the most positively leveraged players when I ran Sims tonight, like on the entire slate. So didn't really love Robert Thomas. Jimmy Snuggerud, fine. Loved Holloway. So Holloway one off even is just fine. The St. Louis 2 is pretty interesting for me because those guys don't get a ton of minutes, right? Kairu's been playing like 13, 14 minutes. And I love Jordan Kyrou as a player. I hope he gets the hell out of St. Louis. 5,800 for any NHLer playing 13 to 14 minutes is insane. He's 5,800 on DK. And he, like, I'm not exaggerating when I say, you know, 13 to 14 minutes. Last game 14, last game 14. Before that 16 and a half. Before that 12. Before that 15. Like, it's just that 5,800 is a wild overpricing of a guy that's not going to get very many minutes. Here's the thing. Once you get past the Teddy Bluger matchup,
there's nothing.
There's nothing. There is nothing. And that St. Louis second line, 140 minutes together, 3.2 expected goals, 3.5 actual goals per 60. They have been very, very, very good. And even though Kairu's overpriced, I think the line itself is perfectly fine. And you can fit them in with the Cirelli line from Tampa Bay. And you put in a $7,500 goalie, you got $7K left for your two defensemen. So you can fit them in with Tampa 1. You can fit them in with Edmonton 1. Like, you know what I mean? So I think, like I said, of the 17 and 19K lines, St. Louis 1's at the top of the board for me. But if you are going to build expensive elsewhere, I think St. Louis 2 is very much in play here. On the Vancouver side, I know you said you did want to play Ogren in them. I don't really want to play Ogren in them. But when I ran Sims, there were 5 guys with a fair bit of positive leverage, like between like 3 and 6%. 5 guys from the Canucks. 3 of them were on that second line with Rossi, Ogren, and Besser. So Besser number 1, Ogren number 4, Rossi number 5. Not that I really love them. They haven't played well together, but 16 to 18 minutes against the middle six from this St. Louis team, which I'm not super concerned about, I think is playable. That would be the line I would go to for Vancouver. I'm not super keen on playing anything from the Vancouver side here. I think if I'm playing a line that's under like 14K from this game, it's St. Louis 2.
Yeah. Wait, who doesn't control the play versus Vancouver? I'll tell you who. Our New York Rangers.
Yeah, it's true.
What a trash can organization. Boston Bruins with a 2.9 total heading into Detroit. The Red Wings have a 3 total. Not only is this an original 6 matchup, but it has heavy playoff implications. Boston going Minton. Leafs could use Minton. Pasternak, Kuznetsov, Zacha, Middlestat, Arvidsson, Lindholm, Geeky, and Lucas Reichel, who scored after the Cliffy shout-out. See, we don't always just, slander people who score. We're one of 371, and Lucas Reichel is the one. Wings going Comfort, DeBrincat, Kane. We'll stop there. I'll start in Detroit first. DeBrincat, Kane, Comfort, 17,300. 17.1% top 2, 17% projected ownership. Like, they've been fine offensively with JT Compher. But, like, at the end of the day, it's still JT Compher. And it's a good power play.
And he got taken off the power play.
for Cop, right?
Yeah, Cop is on the top unit now.
That's probably what I would do. I just leave off Comfer and add in Cop because Boston takes a lot of penalties. And, the Detroit power play without Larkin probably doesn't leave a lot to be desired. But if you're going to get 3, 4, 5 opportunities against the Bruins penalty kill, I want the power play guys in. And, I can't imagine Andrew Kopp getting more than 3-4% ownership here tonight. I don't know what we have him projected at. It's probably around that. But if you leave off Comfer and add in Kopp, you get a full power play stack. You reduce the ownership. You don't have to play a 17% JT Romper Comfer. Fuck. That guy, I can't do it. That's really about it on the wing side. Like that Finney, Perron, Raymond line is exactly what you think they are. And I have no interest in playing them. I guess like a 2-man of Cop Casper or Cop Appleton, if you're really desperate for super cheap and you get exposure to the power play is fine. But at that point, I'd rather just go play like Texier and Bolduc. You know what I mean? In single entry anyway, if you want to do like a set with cheap 2-mans in MME, I would look to Cop Appleton as a possibility. But my interest is on the Boston side. I don't particularly love the top line. They have negative leverage, 7.2% top two, 9.4% projected ownership. The only reason they have any decent numbers is because of David Pastrnak. I think what you could do is do like a 2-man, a Minton and Pastrnak. Like the Wings penalty kill has vastly improved from last year. It's still not elite by any stretch, but it's not like the Boston power play is some world beater. So like, I think I would just stick with a 2-man of Minton and Pastrnak. The second line, listen, they're never going to create a bunch of high quality scoring chances, but they're scoring 4.4 goals per 60 minutes in almost 500 minutes. And they're going to avoid Edvinsson and Seider. And once you get past them, it's just there's nothing there. So I think Boston 2 at 10,700 is definitely in play for me as a filler. They had a big game last time, but they've been great all season. I guess you could take a chance on Lindholm, Geeky, and Reichel at 11.5. I'd rather just save the 800 if you need it and go to Boston 2. But Lucas Reichel is an interesting fit on that line, so I don't mind Boston 3 either.
Yeah, I'll start on the Detroit side. Like, you're right. They've been fine. The top line's been good with Comfer there offensively. I mean, you hate to hand it to them, but you got to hand it to them. 69 shot attempts, 4.2 expected goals, 3.9 actual in 105 minutes together. That's pretty good. They get, 19 to 20 minutes. Maybe Comfer's time will go down now that he's not on the top power play anymore. So I certainly don't hate Detroit one year. 17,300 and starting to push 20% ownership. Like, that's where I kind of get stuck, is like, I have a tough time playing a JT Compher line that might be the chalkiest line on the slate. And especially when you have the Horvat line sitting right there. We have the St. Louis top line that we just talked about sitting right there as well. It's like Detroit facing Boston with JT Compher at 17%, or St. Louis facing Vancouver at 12% ownership. You know what I mean? That's the way I kind of look at it. So listen, I'm not going to begrudge anybody playing Detroit's top line here. They have been very good. Boston's not a great defensive team. They're good. Jeremy Swayman is great, and they do take a lot of penalties. So I think it's fine. I'm going to be honest. That Detroit third line is a little bit of what's standing out to me. Kopp, Casper, and Appleton. Not that I particularly love that line, but at the very least, Appleton and Casper are getting close to 200 minutes together, and they're at least break even by shot share and expected goal share. And they're going to be used in the shutdown matchup, which means they're going to play a lot with Seider and Edvinsson. And they're also going to see a lot of the Pastrnak line that is terrible defensively. So, like, if you're playing Tampa Bay here tonight and you do get Cop on the top power play for 3,600, two-man Cop and Casper for 7,100, two-man of Cop and Appleton for 6,100. So, like, I think it's perfectly fine to just two-man, two guys off that third line because they are going to play a lot with that Sider Evanson top pair because they're the line that gets used in the shutdown matchup. So that gives them Detroit's best defenseman and a great defensive pair to play with, and it puts them in a good 5-on-5 matchup just because the Boston top line is so bad defensively. So it's actually a couple guys from Detroit 3 that's drawing my attention, like for your Tampa Bay lineups. On the Boston side, so now that we have a bit of time, I do want to talk about Lucas Reichel. I talked about him briefly on the show on Tuesday. And then he scored. Listen, it was a lucky bounce off the boards that caught the goalie by surprise, and he had a wide open net. So, like, let's not get crazy here. But, this is a guy 17th overall in 2020. He's only 23 years old, right? Like, this isn't a guy that's like 26 and has been kicking around for 8 years or whatever. And let's not forget, he spent four of his development years playing in the bottom six for the Chicago Blackhawks.
Great spot.
From 2021. Anyways, what I mentioned on Thursday was his zone entry stuff. If you go look at the 4 years from 2021 to 2025, relative to his team, Lucas Reichel, zone entries per 60 minutes at 5-on-5, and how often he carries the puck in on those zone entries. And the reason that's important is because carried zone entries typically lead to more offense than dumping it in. Things can vary from team to team. Like Florida's very good at dumping it in and scoring. At least they weren't until this year. But generally carrying the puck in a lot leads to more offense. Relative to the team over those 4 seasons, Lucas Reichel compared to Nico Hischier and Rope Hintz. And I think Rope Hintz is an interesting comp because Rope Hintz didn't really become a good NHLer until he was like 24, maybe 25 years old, because he was a guy who exclusively played off the rush, but was great on zone entries. Now, I think Reichel's not going to be as good of a playmaker as Hintz is. But Hintz is also a guy who creates a lot of offense off the rush. Like, that's what he did when he was in Chicago. And obviously Chicago just didn't have the players to do that. Boston is one of the teams in the NHL that plays the most off the rush of any team in the league. They're like something like 16% above the league average for offense off the rush, and something like 20% below league average off the cycle or forecheck. They actually play like that quick strike, force a turnover and get the 2-on-1s, 3-on-2s, that type of thing. That's the way Boston plays. It's Morgan Geekie especially. I think Lucas Reichel can fit in well there. All that is to say, I think that third line is pretty interesting for the Bruins because, 1, Reichel is so cheap. 2, they're not going to see any minutes against Sider and Edvinsson. And 3, you can put in Reichel for min price. Even Geekie's fallen under 5K at this point. Lindholm's only 4,100. So, that line's, 11,500, I believe? You can fit them in very easily with your Tampa Bay or your Montreal or whatever, and you can still get yourself a pretty good defenseman besides that. So I don't mind a 3-man stack from Boston 3 here tonight against the depth from, the depth defenseman, especially of Detroit. Once you get past Sider and Edvinsson, there's still just not a whole lot there. So I do like Boston 3. Listen, Pasternak's just straight up still one of the best plays on the entire board. He has the second highest projection of anybody on the slate tonight and the highest of any winger. So one off Pasternak, perfectly fine. Good luck to you. I do think Boston 3 is a filler that's very much in place. So for me, it's actually both third lines in this game that I kind of like.
Tampa Bay Lightning with a 3.5 total. Heading into Edmonton, the Oilers have a 3.1. Tampa going Cirelli, Hagel, Kucherov, Point, Gonsalves, Gensel. Oilers going McDavid, Hyman, Savoie, Nugent Hopkins, Podkolzin, Kapanen. Starting the Edmonton side, it's less interesting. The top line for Edmonton, 21,500, 24.1% top two, tied for the highest on the night, 11.1% projected ownership. I get it from this standpoint that like McDavid and Hyman are going to play like 23, 24 minutes, and Cirelli and Hagel with Kucherov, unbelievably good offensive numbers, not great defensive numbers. You know, there is Vasilevsky behind him, and it's a pretty terrible power play spot. But like from a minute standpoint, they're just going to McDavid and Hyman are just going to play a ton. Do I want to play them over Tampa top line? Probably not, just because shooting on Edmonton goalies is a lot better than shooting on Andrei Vasilevsky. Now, it is a front end of a back-to-back, so there is a chance it could be Jonas Johansson, but I would imagine they're going to save Jonas Johansson for tomorrow. So there's always that, but that's really the only line I'm interested in Edmonton, like Nugent Hopkins, Podkolzin, and Kapanen. No. Like, I guess like a two-man of Dickinson, Roslovic, but like, no. For me, it's what to do on the Tampa side because, excuse me, Kucherov, Hagel, Cirelli, 21,700, most expensive line on the night. 22% top two, 8.4% projected ownership. Their offensive numbers are outrageous in about 300 minutes. They just don't make sense. The problem I'm running into is that Edmonton has a really bad penalty kill. And Connor Ingram is starting because they regret trading for Tristan Jarry. They gave up a second-round pick for Tristan Jarry when he was on waivers probably 3 times before that. Classic Stan Bowman. But do you power play stack? Do you just top line it? First of all, Kucherov is on an otherworldly heater. Like, you could just one-off Kucherov and be done. I think I would go Cirelli, Kucherov, and leave off Hagel and add in Gensel or add in Point. Just because of how good this power play spot is. I always hate leaving off Brandon Hagel because he plays great minutes and he plays with Kucherov at 5-on-5. But like, if Edmonton's going to give this team 3, 4, 5 opportunities on the power play, I want an extra power play guy in there. So I'd probably leave off Hagel, add in Point or Gensel, save 1,200 to 1,600, brings it down in cost, get more power play. You still get Kucherov and go about your day. Like, Point, Gensel, Gonsalves is interesting because they've been pretty good in a small sample. But I'm not playing Tampa without Kucherov. And if you leave off Gonsalves and add in Kucherov, you're at 22,200. I guess you could do that. But then, you know, Cirelli, Hagel, and Kucherov at 5-on-5 just run everyone over. So it's always a dilemma what to do at Tampa. I would at least get Kucherov in. I'd probably pair him with Cirelli and add in one of Point or Gensel. That's where I would be. If you have a different strategy and you like that strategy, go with it. Tampa's always confusing from that aspect, and they're very expensive, but this is a very good power play spot.
Yeah, one thing I do want to mention about the power play, though, is Edmonton's penalty kill has gotten better with Dickinson or Murphy in the lineup.
That's not surprising.
Right. Like 8 games with them, it's not a great penalty kill, but it's been league average. If you look at their shot attempts against and all that. And they've played some pretty good power plays in those 8 games, like Carolina, Vegas, Dallas, Nashville. San Jose's been better with Orlov, obviously. Florida's in there. So, like, we've played some teams with some good power play units, and they've been league average. So, you know, that's one thing. But, you know, it's still such a good 5-on-5 spot. And the thing is like, even if a league average power play against Tampa Bay, you give Tampa, you know, 2 or 3 power play opportunities, they can easily go 1 for 2 or 1 for 3. And then, you know, you're off and running. I really do like just playing Tampa 1 here. I like leaving off Point and Gensel It does kind of suck, but that Tampa top line's just been so good at 5-on-5. Like 5 expected goals, 5.5 actual per 60. Like their 5-on-5 numbers, I think, are better than the Chicago power play. So like, you know what I mean? Like they've just been preposterous. If you want just one-off Kucherov, like I think that's fine. He has the 4th highest projection of any player on the board here tonight. One-off Kucherov is always in play, but that entire line's been so good at 5-on-5. Like that would be, you know, of the lines around or over 21K, that would be the line I would play over Montreal 1 and over Edmonton 1. It would be Tampa 1 at 21,700. There are so many filler lines you can play with them. You know, we just went over Boston 3. We went over Tampa 3, at Vancouver 2nd line, St. Louis 2nd line, Ottawa 3rd line, Montreal 3rd line. Like there's just so much you can play with them. So like, I do think Tampa 1 is very firmly in play here tonight. If you do want to do point Gensel Kucherov, I think that's perfectly fine. I'm going to be honest, just because even if the Edmonton's, like I said, even if the Edmonton's power play or penalty kill is better, Tampa can easily go 1 for 3. And then, like I said, you're off and running. But it is Tampa 1 I like best on the Tampa side easily, and best I like in this game overall. I have no problem playing Edmonton 1, but, you know, basically the same price, more ownership for a line that really doesn't have a sample together. And we're not sure that, like, I assume Matt Savoie is probably going to get 17, 18 minutes plus top power play time. But this coach has not been shy about switching things around extremely quickly. They are going to get a ton of ice time. As long as this isn't a blowout, they're going to play, you know, like I said, Savoie at probably around 18 minutes, if not more. And then McDavid and Hyman over 20. McDavid especially well over 20. So I don't mind them from a minutes perspective, but I think if I'm playing Edmonton here, I would prefer one-offs. Like if you want a one-off Podkolzin or one-off, just straight up one-off McDavid at 10K, you know, if they go off for like 5 goals, he's probably going to be heavily involved, right? It's not going to be Adam Henrique or Josh Szymanski. So I think a McDavid one-off is perfectly fine. But if I'm stacking anything out of this game, it's Tampa 1.
Talk about some defensemen here in the top range. We have Evan Bouchard, Matthew Schaefer, Darren Radish, and Moritz Seider. I guess I'll throw the 5K guys in there. McAvoy, Hudson, Shabbat, Dobson. Just because, like, Tomas Shabbat is in such a great spot. Evan Bouchard is 7,900 in this matchup. Like, it's not the worst matchup for him, but at that price, like, I don't really want to spend 7,900 for him. If I build a lineup that I love and I have AK left over, I'll put in Evan Bouchard, but I would much prefer to play, you know, Schaefer or Radish or even Shabbat. Like, I would imagine Shabbat's ownership is going to be pretty wild here tonight, but I'd rather play those 3 over Bouchard. I think Seider's interesting just from the fact that Boston takes a bunch of penalties and his peripherals have been generally decent. Same thing for Charlie McAvoy. Like, he's been on a heater, but, you know, I think it would be Schaefer or Radish or Shabbat if I'm spending up.
Yeah. Evan Bouchard does have the highest projection overall, but of the 4 defensemen above 6K, the best point per dollar does go to Darren Radish. Probably not a big surprise facing Edmonton. At 6,200, I don't really have a lot of interest in Bouchard without Draisaitl on the power play. Like at 7,900, like if he was 6,100, then it's a conversation. But, you know, Radish on the other side playing similar minutes in a much better spot. I'd rather just play Radish. Matthew Schaefer certainly in play against Montreal. Under 6K. Thomas Shabbat, by the way, 5,400. He's averaging like 28 minutes a game or something without Jake Sanderson in the lineup. Highest projected ownership on the board at 26%. No other defenseman even above 17%. Shabbat's at 26. Probably the best play for any defenseman above like 3,500, but going to be a lot of people playing him. 26% projected. Some single entries, I imagine he's going to be 30 to 40%. In that price range, Noah Dobson, I think, is perfectly fine here, just because I don't love the power play spot for Montreal, so I prefer Dobson over Hudson, a little bit lower. Like, I guess Justin Falk is fine because he's still putting up peripherals for Detroit, but I don't really love him. Like, Philip Broberg, top power play, I guess is okay. Philip Hronik is projecting pretty well for 4,200, even though Vancouver can't score. It's just that he plays so many minutes. But I'm going to be honest, like, in that 4 to 6K range, I'm probably just going to try to pay up and play for. If I don't care about ownership, it's Shabbat. If I do, it's Dobson. Under 4K. I mean, Darnell Nurse at 3,400 stands out. I know it's not a great matchup for Edmonton, but 3,400 for a guy that shoots and blocks the way that he does, I think is very, very fine. Jake McCabe, 2,900, highest point per dollar value of any defenseman priced under 4K here tonight. I think highest of anybody on the board. I mean, fine. He's going to get minutes. Jordan Spence in a great matchup for Ottawa at 3,200. He's playing 19-20 minutes without Sanderson. Artem Zub, kind of the same thing for Ottawa at 3,100, but I'd rather play Spence. Simon Evanson, 3,300, getting good minutes for Detroit. Under 3K, again, McCabe is there, but Mason Lowry, he's getting decent minutes for Boston. He's only 2,600. Tyler Cleven's getting 19 to 20 minutes for Ottawa. He's got a good point per dollar value. And I'll mention Charles Edward Dastus. If you do need a min-price guy on the blue line, he's still getting in the high teens for ice time for Tampa Bay, and he's only 2,500.
Mario Ferraro is not on the main slate for DraftKings. If he's on the FanDuel slate, then he's fine. But yeah. Let's talk about goalies. Top of the board, the top range, was a range. We have the Blues starter, we have the Tampa starter, and we have Linus Ullmark. I mean, listen, whoever starts for the Blues is going to be projected well, but he's 8,400. You need a shutout there. Vasilevsky against McDavid is never a great thing. So, like, obviously the clear number one for me in the top range, or maybe even overall, is Linus Ullmark. Going down the board here, I think if Gibson starts for Detroit, I like both goalies in the Detroit game, Gibson and Swayman. Swayman at 7,600. Jacob Fowler, I think, is also fine at 7,600. I think I'd rather play Sorokin or Swayman, though. In the bottom range, I don't know if I want to go below 7,600 for a goalie here tonight. If I had to pick between Lankinen, Ingram, and Stolarz, I'd just commit seppuku.
Yeah, the highest projected goalie by quite a bit is Linus Ullmark. Also easily the best point per dollar value of any goalie on the board. He's also going to have the most ownership. But if you have 8,100, you don't want to just worry about your goalie. I mean, you should always worry about your goalie, but whatever. Linus Ullmark is the guy. I imagine it's going to be Jordan Binnington starting for St. Louis here tonight because they have been rotating back and forth. Hofer started the last game. Binnington at 8,400. I mean, I know it's a great matchup, but I'd rather play Linus Ullmark for 8,100 at home against Toronto than Binnington at 8,400 on the road.
He has been good since the Olympics, but Hofer has been better.
Yeah. So I guess like it would probably be Jacob Fowler against the Islanders. But honestly, like I'd rather just play Ullmark. If I do need to punt, I mean, Sorokin's not a punt at 7,600, but Ilya Sorokin certainly, I think, is perfectly fine here. And Jeremy Swayman, as you mentioned, at 7,600. I really don't love the punts here tonight. I mean, listen, I guess the guy would be whoever starts for Vancouver, might be Lankinen, just because it's St. Louis. Maybe St. Louis doesn't fill the net on him, but like Lankinen at home against St. Louis, or Ingram at home against Tampa Bay, or Stolarz at home on the road against Ottawa, like none of those really appeal to me. So I'd really try to find the money for Sorokin or Swayman or Fowler. Lankinen if you need a punt, but I am not doing that.
Yeah. I didn't look at the schedule next week, but I think it's the Tuesday, Thursday type deal.
Yeah. I think there's 1 game Monday, 2 games Wednesday, and 1 game Friday, or 2 games Friday. But it's like a 1-13, 2-12, 2-15 schedule.
So we'll see you Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. As always, MLB subscriptions are live. If you do want to check those out, stokastic.com/pricing. Use promo code PUCKLUCK. That supports us directly. Who are you liking for your hat trick pick?
Revenge narrative, Emil Heineman.
I want to see some brawls. I want to see the Leafs lose. Ridley Greek.
Just pounding home the 6-1 goal or something like that. Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see you guys on Tuesday. We'll see you in the Discord tonight. Good luck, everybody.
Good luck tonight, everyone.